Good morning with gloom on my head. Had a big feeling to climb back in bed. Then I looked in the mirror and somebody said, wake up, wake up. It's time for you to lose the blues, and this is a very special treat. Tell it to everyone you meet, that life is all for living and love is all for giving. So this is a very special day. Tell it to everyone along the way, that this is a very special day.
Special day it is. It's a wonderful Wednesday. That means my partner in crime, my co-host this morning, is Bradley Gilbert over here from Walmart. Good morning, Bradley.
Good morning, Becky.
In the hot seat, it is Education Wednesday. We do have our own superintendent from West Washington with Keith Nance with us. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning.
We were talking about movies right before. So
Yeah.
'Tis the season.
We're getting into the Halloween season.
Yeah. All these thrillers are coming out, and all the good movies and stuff, things to do. But of course, if you have time to get them in, though, it's a very busy time too. A lot of activities going on. Brad, let's thank our sponsors this morning.
All right, we've got Meadowview Healthcare, Walmart, Salem Crossing, Hoosier Uplands, Americans for Prosperity, Mama Rose's, Fox Lee Wealth Management, Dr. Black's Eye Associates, Dr. Mindy Gunn, and McAllister Land Consulting.
And I want to remind everybody, tomorrow we're going to be having on the radio, we're going to be talking about the Campbellsburg Country Festival coming up.
Oh,
That's going to be
exciting.
fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exciting time.
Yeah, we host the pageant at school on Thursday night.
Well, and I think I want to bring that to the attention. I think that's very kind when a school is very generous to let, whenever there's an activity like such a contest or something like that. I think it's very nice for the school to let be hosted there. And that was very, very kind of you guys.
Yeah, we've actually had a couple of community organizations use our stage recently. The Wizard of Oz by the Washington County Theater Group, Community Theater. They did their show a couple weekends ago. They did a great job. It was really enjoyable. I went on the Saturday night, and it looked like a packed house. I think that they did pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
And we do that free of charge.
Yeah.
A lot of our kids are in the program. The only thing we ask is that they pay someone from the custodial or maintenance staff to be there if it's outside of hours.
Right.
Other than that, have at it.
Very
Enjoy.
Nice, very nice. Well, we're going to find out because they've got a lot of activities going on in Campbellsburg, and they've really worked hard on it. So we're going to talk with them, and a great time for sure for Campbellsburg to shine. And so they'll be on tomorrow talking about that. So I love the festivals. Means that tis the season.
Yeah.
It's hand solo season.
Hand solo.
The vests and the boots.
Oh.
Hand solo season.
I haven't heard that one. I haven't heard that one. Right.
Yeah, I'll send you the meme.
Okay, please do. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, remember whenever you have winter on top and summer on the bottom when you wear a sweatshirt and shorts. I remember in middle school being told, well, you're winter on top and summer on the bottom there.
That's comfortable.
That's very much comfortable. All right, we're on September 11th, and we definitely want to bring that to the forefront and remember that day. And I think every one of us remember exactly where we were at that moment. And do you remember where you were at, Brad?
I do. I was at work and for a previous company, but I was at work and we heard that something, maybe a commercial plane or a plane had hit one of the towers, and they weren't sure exactly what. So in our office space, we had a common, like cafeteria-like thing, and it had the TV going, and we went in there, and actually I was watching that with my coworkers, and we actually saw the footage of the second plane live when it was live.
Yeah.
The second plane hit the second tower. So I can remember. And I think through all of that time, the thing that I remember the most is I was living in Sellersburg at the time, and it's right across the river, basically from Louisville. So you have all the UPS planes in at night.
Sure.
And I remember that very first night, just how quiet being in town and how quiet that was.
Yeah.
And so but I can remember where I was.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Keith?
I was a first-year teacher or actually a second-year teacher, teaching a bunch of fourth grade students. And it was a lot of confusion. I remember that. And then it was days and weeks and nights of watching a lot of television, a lot of news programming.
Yeah.
It was just so overwhelming what was happening, and to be living through it, I assume you guys, like me, hadn't lived through, we'd heard of other tragedies in American history, but we hadn't witnessed one with our own eyes live on television. So it was like the gravity was just crazy. I just remember coming home from work, the world didn't stop necessarily. You kept going, and we had school, and we did things, and the questions and conversations with kids that age that had no understanding of what was going on, or the adults, and then conversations that really had no idea what was going on, because for days it was just, it was like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What is happening? So it was really like I said, the gravity and the seriousness and the thinking of like, oh my gosh, an attack on our own soil in the heart of the iconic New York City skyline. It was just amazing. And then to follow up and hear the stories, and nowadays you can see movies, especially associated with the firemen and the response, and obviously the thousands of people in the tower. But I think I heard today on the radio coming in, it was like 343 firemen perished in the towers attempting to evacuate those people. And it's amazing to think about that response and that many people running straight into what they knew potentially could be hopeless. They were going with the intentions of putting the people inside there first over top of them, and just amazing. It's just wild to think about. You hope that people would step up to the call when things bad happen, and it always just amazes me the number of people that are willing to do that. And it's just, now thinking about and talking about it makes you have those feelings all over again, which is kind of wild to be removed this many years and still have those same emotions. Not part of a generation that saw like our president be assassinated, or Pearl Harbor, or things of that nature, and to hear people talk about that and really not have an understanding. And the years after, where I really felt like our country kind of rallied around one another despite our differences.
And I think that's a very good point, because a lot of people talk about, especially, with election season and everything, that they wish that everybody could act like September 12th.
Yeah.
Come together and support each other, regardless of differences and things like that. And always remember, there's more that makes us alike than separates us. So. But it's very sobering to think. It seems like a long time ago, but there's certain parts of it that there's just memories that and the, like Keith was talking about, the firefighters and the first responders that ran into danger to get other people out. It's amazing.
Well, Keith, as a fourth grade teacher, was that something that you? Because that's such an age.
It was really hard to navigate,
fourth grade,
because I was also 22 years old. So, what do you say? To what level do you speak about it?
That's what I mean. Yeah,
I think mostly they needed to feel comfort that things were okay and that we were going to. They wanted it to be normal, And so you wanted to run your classroom as normally as possible. But there were conversations. There were times where kids asked some pretty pointed questions. And, to the level that you're able to, age appropriate, you answer them. Because if they're asking those questions and they're asking them out loud, you know that it's occupying a lot of their mind space. It's just like right now we're doing a bunch of safety days at school and practicing things like intruder drills, active shooter drills, and it just, the gravity of it is amazing, because 450 kids sit there in complete silence while you're talking to them. You're standing in front of them talking to them, and it's just such an eerie feeling. But kids are pretty smart. They recognize, they pick up what's going on in their home. They pick up the conversations that people are having around them when you don't think that they are. They spend more time thinking about serious things than one may think. And September 11th was definitely the case. The kids were asking some pretty deep questions, and you just tried to reassure them, and you just try to answer them. Of course, you can't share too much, but kids need to be leveled with to some degree, and that was the tricky part of navigating that month or so after. But they're also super resilient. So as we continued to focus on it and talk about it and watch, they kind of move on pretty quickly.
Right.
So for them, it was a major source of maybe stress and anxiety for a couple of weeks, and for us as adults, it probably continued on for much longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was wild to be a part of, to witness it. And I still remember my classroom where the little TV was that we had. We did have TVs in our classroom, and the individual faces and the kids.
So you did, okay, that was my question, or I was going to ask, did you have a TV then for them?
We did, but our administration, and they're probably the correct choice, don't sit there and visually show this over and over again.
Right.
I said that I didn't experience anything quite like that, which, forget the exact number, but it was thousands of people that, was it just under 4,000 or something? But I remember being a kid about that age and watching the Challenger blow up. We're all getting together to watch the Challenger because there's a teacher on board and all that kind of stuff. So I do remember what that was like, being a kid watching, and then the confusion of like, is this what's supposed to happen? What's going on? Everyone's quiet. You hear some teacher like make a comment or kind of be a little emotional, and the kids that I had in my class were exactly the same way. So to sit there and burn that image in their head over and over again and watch it, good call by my principal. But we as staff members, as soon as our kids went somewhere, exactly what we were doing.
Sure.
No, we weren't able to pull up our phones and watch it like we are now. That would probably be a whole different ball game in today's society. But yeah, it was difficult, really, really hard. And just shows you what we can do, what people are capable of, good and bad. It was just, again, the gravity of the day just blows my mind. And kids today don't really get that, what they've been exposed to and what they can see online today. Like, for some reason, on some of my feeds, I keep getting a lot of Ukraine, like actual war footage. And, people always say you never get to see what war looks like. But you can watch, like, really, really close combat and war, and that blows your mind. And so they get a little desensitized, and that they didn't experience it, to try to explain to them the gravity. It's just kind of like my grandfather trying to explain to me the gravity, what it felt like for Pearl Harbor to take place, and not understanding. And I don't think kids today quite understand it as well, but for us that lived through it, we sure do.
I think it cannot be forgotten that that changed so much for whatever, if you think there should have been different catalysts that would have made change, but it changed how we handle ourselves and our security as a country going forward, and that's very important to think about that. But like Keith said, it shows the bad that humans can do, but the opposite of that, so much good came out of it, and different things like that. You mentioned the Challenger explosion. That actually happened on my birthday, and so I think that's another one of those milestone things. But when you think about 9/11, I think we still think about the somberness of it, but so many positive things, and so many call to service. There's so many people that whether you agree with their politics or not, but one of the things that J.D. Vance, that was something that he decided to serve his country, and there's so many men and women who did decide, I want to do something. And so it just kind of, I think we're resilient as Americans, and I don't think this is just us, but I'd like to think that we kind of at times corner the market on it, that our resiliency, that we always try to find good things and the positive out of the bad things to kind of make them make sense. And I think that's hard. That would be hard to translate to a group of fourth graders. That would be hard to translate in that moment. So, but we just it's just one of those things that you wish you didn't have to remember exactly where you were, but there's lessons to be learned.
And then the less focused on crashes, the Pentagon, and then one that went down in Pennsylvania, and the way that individual citizens responded on that airplane that brought the plane down in Pennsylvania. And you don't know how many lives they saved. How many lives did they save?
Heroes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think you brought up a good point. The 12th, it seemed like everybody was all together. That unity, that peacefulness. People were a little kinder, if you will. People were a little nicer. People were just a little more. And then you wanted to, I guess, hold that in time. You didn't want that to ever go away.
Yeah.
But then it kind of does go away. And then but you think about the families. I was thinking like all of the, the ones that have got all that smoke and all of that stuff in their lungs, and they even though they lived, they still have suffered. All the families, continue. So, even though we maybe don't see it right here, but there's still, families that are going through a lot still with it,
Yeah.
And have gone through a lot. So it's definitely something to remember, and I just hope we just don't ever, I feel like to talk about it is to remember it and we should always bring that to the forefront, that it should be something we don't ever forget. And I hope as a country that we kind of remember that day afterwards, everybody just kind of bonding. I think the 11th we were all shocked, and just like you said, we were just kept watching it over and over, and just trying to get our head wrapped around it. On the 12th, I think the day after is when we all just kind of, everybody was just as one, unity. And I know Alan Jackson wrote about it, and he was spot on,
Yeah.
And,
and then like here, obviously the impact on us is different than if you lived in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
But you even saw people around here doing things. It was odd. I mean, not odd. I mean, I think everyone felt a little helpless, so they wanted to do something. And so the next thing you know, you saw people volunteering to do things at places and nonprofits that wasn't happening at the same level. People were donating blood. People going and working at shelters and doing different things because they just wanted to do something. The action of sitting around and watching can be detrimental. And so I think there was this really strong sense that, like, hey, we got to do something for our own communities.
Right.
And it definitely had a positive result across our country, not just there in the areas that were immediately affected.
Yeah, the water droplet put the ripples out all across the country. And I think people are always kindest when they grieve together, separate from their differences. When people come together and support and grieve together, grieve for strangers, so to speak. I think that's when people show their ultimate kindness.
Right. I feel like then maybe later on, then we go through all these emotions that we're given.
Got mad
together. Yeah, we were angry. Everybody was angry about it. I feel like it all hit everybody at once. I mean, we were all in unity in that. Where we were grieving, and then you start getting angry and mad, and all of the emotions were coming out. And I think I think it's important. I mean, God gave us these emotions. We have these, and I think we all felt them for sure. But definitely a day to remember, and hopefully will never happen again. So for sure. All right, we're on. Also today is I want to start my own business day.
All right.
Be careful what you wish for.
True.
It looks glamorous from the outside.
You better be get kicking it. Yeah. Libraries remember Day. Remember your libraries. We've got a beautiful library. We're very blessed with our library. And you think of how old that library is.
Yeah.
And how beautiful it is, and what great shape it is, and how well it's been taken care of, and how many people it's helped. And I remember going and doing research papers there, and I mean, we didn't have, we couldn't just.
We didn't have the internet.
No. No, we had to go do our.
We didn't have the World Wide Web at our fingertips at that point.
No, we didn't. That's for sure. This is also make your bed day. Keith, do you make your bed?
No, I got to admit.
Brad.
I do, and
look at you.
I do.
Good.
I do.
Jeannie's like, yes.
Yes.
Jeannie's
Yeah.
like,
I hear my mom's voice.
I've worked with that man.
Don't you walk out of this house without that bed being made? Yeah, I do. I
love
do.
that.
Yeah. But I it's habit. It is just.
What if you're
habit.
like really running late?
I make the bed.
All right, it's going to be made. Can't
Yeah.
go without it. I love that.
No.
That's great.
Because what if somebody shows up at your house?
I know.
And then it's like.
Well, they're not invited to my bedroom.
Well, I know, but there's still times that they go, that's a sign of, like, I just feel like that's a sign of prepared, it's like you never know. It's like,
Well, you never know. Yeah.
Well, somebody's in this bathroom, maybe I gotta go to this bathroom,
Yeah.
and,
Oh, but I do love if I go to someone's home and they say you can look around. I love to go and see. So I think having the bed made and then when you come home, it's not only just for someone else to possibly see, it's for yourself.
Yeah.
It's a good, peaceful feeling when you have your bed made. I get it. It just, I'm just not as punctual as you are always. I try to. Yeah. National Day of Service and Remembrance, which we agree with that. National Emergency Responders Day. Hats off to all of our emergency responders.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And they get called out 24/7. When we're laying our head down on the pillow, they're still kicking it and they're still going. And we were somewhere the other day, and there was an emergency, and it was just so many going. And I just and if you were that person, you'd be a person's family. You'd be so grateful to see all those. I always think the cavalry's coming. Here comes.
Yeah.
They're riding in, and they are. We've got the best of the best. We're just so blessed that we have got good responders. National Hot Cross Buns Day. Hot cross buns. One a penny,
Song
two a
about
penny.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. You remember? Wait, hang on. What was the thing with the xylophone or whatever? Remember?
No,
You remember
the recorder.
The recorder. That was it. Remember hot cross buns?
Yeah.
I bet our parents remember.
And then you hit that weird note.
Get a squeak out of it.
And Mary Had a Little Lamb. We learned that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, but hot cross buns was one of my favorite. National No News is Good News Day. Well, like if you're waiting for a doctor to call or something, if you've not heard anything, usually that's, or no news is good news, right?
Yeah.
Usually. National Quiet Day. Hard for us. Not going to participate in that. Sorry.
No.
Patriot Day. Women's Baseball Day. Hats off to women's baseball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. I played actually years ago on the Kimball team. Wasn't any good, but I was part of a team.
There you go. It's A League of Their Own, such a successful movie about the women's baseball, and filmed primarily here in Indiana, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool, very cool. No crying in baseball.
There's no crying in baseball.
That's right.
I change a word, and I use that every once in a while. Not to anybody that's literally crying, but I've
There's no crying at Walmart.
I'm getting ready for certain Zooms. It's just like there's no crying at Walmart. There's no
telling
crying
yourself
at
that,
Walmart.
yeah. In the mirror.
Yeah,
Glad
it's
you've
for
got
me.
this.
It's for
There's
me.
no crying in Walmart. Yeah. Right. I think we all have to do that for sure. So those are some holidays. Get out and enjoy for sure. All right. So we've got a lot going on. It is a busy season. We're into September now, moving right along here and going into the fall season. Brad, real quick, pool report. We still got the pool open?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, and it's going to have a couple cool days, but then it's going to be the mid-80s. But not this weekend, but the next weekend is going to be pool shutdown time, which is fine. It's time. But But
like, who are we fooling over here?
I know.
That'd be
I know.
morning. That'd be morning.
I'm trying to find me a dome that I can put up and cover the whole thing
Please
and have
do.
it year round.
That would be
you know,
beautiful.
as far as
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You know, they've got to
No,
be making
it's
one.
time. You know.
Yeah. Tis the season.
Out goes
We'll
pool season. It
sing
comes
in the
in hand solo
sunshine.
season. I've got to send you that meeting.
Yeah, you got to
It's
send me
awesome.
that one. I love that.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so we are talking a busy time. So what's happening over at West Washington, Keith? What's going on? What are you guys doing?
Well, it's pretty amazing that we are in September,
I know.
and we just sent our midterm reports home last week, which
How was
is
that?
oh, that's fine.
Good.
Our technology there has made things a lot easier as far as keeping grade books go and keeping parents in the know and then being able to check their students' grades. But we still have times in the year that we mark as, the halfway point to the end of the grading period. And so, that's good. It's also kind of a little bit of a wake-up call for some kids. If they've been dragging their feet a little bit, they say, oh, I need to kick it into gear. So, yeah, overall, that's gone very, very well. It's been a good start to the school year. You see a lot of new faces. You see a lot of familiar faces. You see a lot of energy when the school year starts. And it's been a lot of fun. There's no time to rest because as soon as you get in the school building, first day, things start rolling pretty quickly, and that's how we find ourselves, 5 weeks into school and saying, how did it happen? So
how'd this begin? Let's talk about, like, when you're talking about those grades, and having them online and parents can go. How important do you feel? I mean, are you very passionate about making sure these parents have that connection and are staying up with their students? Is that something that?
Yeah. So it's been a while now, but years ago when I first started there, we didn't have an online platform for our grade book,
Right.
and so we had to print things, send them home. The ability for parents to kind of stay up to date, the ability for kids. We try to make kids take a major role in their own goal setting and then following and tracking their own progress. I think that's an important thing to do, especially with older kids. As you start getting into fifth grade or so, you start showing them how to get into their own account and be able to check their grades and advocate for themselves some as well. If they're not doing well in something and they recognize that, or they see something in their grade book that is really bringing their grade down, teaching them the skills to go to a teacher and say, hey, I know I messed up on this quiz, I'm doing my best to get things caught up or do a little better, can you lend me a hand, trying to teach them to have the fortitude to look out for themselves.
Sure.
It's an important skill to have, and we want to foster that. And definitely for parents, it used to be kind of an unknown what's going on at school.
Yeah.
And now you really can have a little window into what's happening in each of your children's classes. Also inside of there, we try to collect as many email addresses as we can because we use that platform to message parents quite a bit. Obviously, we have other platforms to do that as well, but we can mass send out things to an entire classroom of kids really easily with like a click of a button. And so, having that technology has been a huge advantage as far as keeping the lines of communication open to parents. Now, if you're a 15-year-old kid, you may not care for it too much. But, if you're the parent or you're with a school, those are all very, very positive things. So, yes, it's beneficial.
I like the accountability. I like you're talking about that because I think that's something that definitely we need to make sure that they see that,
Mm-hmm.
that they're the ones that can make the change. I think it's great, the parents, and I love parents being involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I want parents, that's something I feel like is so important for parents to get right in there with their teachers, get to know the teachers, but also, check in with the students, check in with their own child, But I love the accountability, making sure the child realizes that it's up to them to, if they are not turning in the assignments or, studying for the tests, they can do better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important for them to see how things impact your grade. I remember when I first started teaching, like, in front of the classroom showing, like, well, and if you score this on this test, and then you do this on your daily work, and then if you do this on your quizzes, how that averages out into what your total grade is. Now you can visually see a representation of that, and as it changes in real time, as opposed to having to go through that and try to teach kids how to calculate their own information. So I do think it's impactful for sure.
Yeah, I think that's nice that we have that, and that's a positive for technology.
Yeah.
you know, there's some negatives we see, but there's a lot of positives too on that. So that works good. So that has been sent out to the parents, to the kids.
Yeah, so parents, they get notice that it was midterm time, and an email is sent with that midterm, so you can see it digitally. If you call the school, we'll certainly produce a physical copy for you, but we do no longer, print out 1,000 color copies of grades and then pack them into envelopes and pay whatever postage is nowadays to send them home. Sure. It's kind of a waste of a resource, so we try to take advantage of the technology we have at hand, and we definitely encourage parents to, if you don't have an account for your student gradebook system, to get a hold of us. We can set it up. It's easy, very, very easy. Basically, all you need is an email address, and you'll have it up and running within 30 seconds. So.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. All right, what else we got going on then?
So last night we had the big Salem West Washington volleyball match.
Yeah.
And our girls won it in 3 sets, which I was really, really pleased to see, because sometimes if you go into 4 or 5, volleyball can get to be a pretty late night affair. And so I was really happy to see the girls perform the way they did, but I was also happy to be home by 9 o'clock. So thank you girls, excellent work. But it was a really, really great vibe in the gym, because they did their pink out game, and both teams participated in that. Salem's coach is the father of our coach, Samantha Green, and our cheer blocks, we put them together in one cheer block. The Salem kids were right there next to our West Washington kids, sitting together, and they both cheered on their teams in an excellent way, really supportive. It was fun to watch, and having the pink out game, that kind of brings us to this time of year when we also have Relay for Life coming up. And Relay for Life, it will be hosted out at West Washington, and so we're excited to be doing that. And we got a pretty full day planned, I believe. Unfortunately, it is Parents Weekend at IU, so I will be visiting my son up in Indiana, but I am working closely with the relay team to get things set up and prepared, so it'll go off without a hitch. We're going to have a big fireworks display for survivors, and Paul Allgood, he has his license, and he does this as like a side hustle, and he always volunteers his services and donates some fireworks, and then I go out and try to raise some money. And so we had several sponsors this year, and really, really thankful and grateful for that, because it helps us celebrate, because there's gravity to relay too. You got the luminary, so you're doing all these things within a short span of time, and you want to properly celebrate survivors. You want to properly mourn those people that cancer tragically took from us. You want to do all those things in the same period of time. And so having a moment to celebrate, in addition to what is a beautiful luminary for remembrance, it's fun to have both of those things. You got both sides of the coin happening at the same event. So really, really excited about that event coming up, and the relay team has been awesome as far as using our facilities go. It's always been a really great event.
For sure.
Well, on a personal note, thank you to you and West Washington. Have been hosting it for a few years now, and always treat us great. And Keith's worked behind the scenes, and a lot of folks out there that make sure. And the fireworks thing, Paul is a survivor, so it's also personal, but giving back. And so it's one of those things that we can't thank West Washington enough for the hospitality and everything that goes on, and how great everyone has been. And he's right. It's you got to celebrate the survivors. That's one of those things. But there is somber moments in it. But there is something about, with the luminaries going lit up, and people have had that somber part of it, and then to end with a celebration, so to speak. It's almost like laughter through tears. That emotion, and that's always impactful. So I personally, having been involved with Relay for Life for so many years, it is I appreciate all West Washington does to make sure that it's a great event. So.
And relay is on Saturday, September 28th.
That's what you knew I was
Yep.
going there. Yeah, September 28th. Okay. Well, is that a Saturday?
Yep.
It's a Saturday.
It's Saturday.
It would be a Saturday, yeah. Well, I think it's amazing how far we've come with cancer,
Yes.
and I'm talking about from kicking it to to the treatments and all that goes into it. And I just hope we just keep growing and getting bigger. And I always say, I hope there's a day that we don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
That there'll be, our generations.
And the pandemic kind of changed things, and we've constantly been rebuilding since then, and we always have a lot more people every year, and that's what we want. Come out and enjoy it. West Washington are great hosts with that, and then Walmart and Raquel's are the sponsors for the Survivor Dinner, but we feed everybody who shows up. The Survivor Dinner, and we do some special things for the survivors, but we feed everybody that shows up, and just come out and have some fellowship and good food. So, and Keith's right. He was giving me the rundown of the great sponsors that are for the fireworks and stuff, and so it's truly a community event all across the community. So come out.
Well, and it's so important, when you've gone through such a, such a moment, and then when you have others that have gone through the same, or maybe a little different, but somewhat. It's nice to have that bonding. There's strength in numbers, and I think just to have that, to have the people say, "Oh yes, I've gone through it too," and I've gone through, and everyone has a unique story, and everyone's story is different. And I think that to share those and to be that and have that dinner, that supper together, or that united together, is just so important for families. And I think. And also for other family members, not just the person going with cancer, but
the caregivers,
are key.
Yeah.
The family, because everybody's, it affects everyone, and I think to have everybody coming together is just awesome. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So that's September the 28th will be Saturday, when will the meal be? Will that be the
6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. on the 28th?
Yes.
Okay, 6 p.m.
Yes.
on the 28th. And where is it at? Is it at West Washington?
Yeah.
Okay.
West Washington.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Awesome. Okay. All right. Thank you for that information. And thanks for hosting it.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. It's been good to be included in the event, and I think that people, for the most part, have been happy about it. I know it's not quite as convenient to being right here in the center of our county, especially for those people maybe coming from Pekin, but I hope we make up for it with the hospitality that we provide. And it is an all-day event, so you can kind of come and go as you need to, or come and stay for the whole thing. Either way, we're just happy to have people there. We love bringing people to the school, no matter what the event is for. We know we host several things. We had a fundraiser this summer for a local child. We kind of try to make our school the center of our community out there, because we don't have a town square, so we just try to treat our school like the town square. And sometimes that creates a little extra work, but it's well worth it. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll be nice. All right. So we got that coming up. All right. What else we got going on?
Some of the other things I wanted to share, I think since I've been in here last, we've had a lot of data released about standardized testing in the state of Indiana, and that can be a source of frustration for a lot of people. And for us, it is certainly a heavy lift as educators. And what we attempt to do at West Washington is not make it our primary focus, but understand that it needs to be a focus, because those tests are based off of our state standards, and so we need to focus on the standards themselves, and we need to understand them front and back, and we need to understand what our priority standards, because they give you a set of standards for each grade and each subject, but they don't all carry the same weight, and so then you get to the standardized test, and you may think, well, that standard wasn't even tested on there. If you look deep enough and you ask the right questions and you pay attention, you will learn quickly which things are considered priority. And it's usually those fundamental pieces that build year after year after year. And so I want to brag a little bit on our teachers and our students. did an excellent job. Every year it astonishes me how well we do being a small school. But for people, if you live north of I-70, that would say in the middle of nowhere, we don't feel that way at all. But
we're in the center of everything.
Yeah, there you go. I always tell people, I was like, if you think we're like the Bermuda Triangle between Salem, Mitchell, and Paoli, that's where we sat, right in the middle. But we had some pretty big milestones, and you never know exactly how or why or where you're going to place or end up. And ultimately, you're in competition with yourself, not other people. You're just trying to improve all the time. But our 5th grade math scores pass rate was the highest in the entire state of Indiana. That's 1,300 plus elementary schools. It just blows my mind. I don't know what else to say about those kids and those teachers and the administration and the people that work very hard on it all the time, except for they're doing an excellent job. I think it's hard when you do have a measure of success to try to maintain that. Mm-hmm. So we're also aware that things can change rapidly, and so you always have to make it a focus, and an improvement is always a focus for us. Our senior high school improved drastically on their results over the course of the last few years, and I certainly want to give credit to those teachers and Dr. Gerges and the admin staff that are leading that charge. And again, I look at it and think, our teachers didn't necessarily improve. They've always been good. What happened is they got more clinical and surgical in their approach. Sometimes there are certain things that you love to teach, and they monopolize a lot of time, and we don't want to take that away from teachers, but we also have to understand that what we're teaching is the students, and we want to make it fun, we want to make it enjoyable, but at the same time, we also want to focus on the right things. So what you may have done as a teaching unit 10 years ago, that standard might be in the grade below or grade above you now. Yeah. And so you have to be very knowledgeable and well versed in what it is you are supposed to be teaching. And so they just got a lot more, like I said, they just really needled down into what is priority. And then once you get through those priority things, you can start bringing in some other stuff. And so I just want to really express my gratitude to them, because they've done a tremendous job in improving their grades. Our SAT results, they've all increased significantly, and in all those measurables, we are doing better than the state, and doing better than the state average, and doing really, really well for our students and community. If I'm not going to focus too heavily on any one thing or the other, but if you want to see those, there is what's called the Indiana dashboard, is the GPS dashboard, and you can go there and you can look at any school. You can pull up multiple schools. Additionally, we post out and put out a lot of information on our social media and our webpage. So a newsletter, which is one thing I started new, is I got a digital newsletter format. I put out the first one in August. I'm going to put one out every single month. Our August newsletter was all based on the standardized test results from the previous year. So there's a lot of good information in there, links within that newsletter that you can follow out and even dig down deeper and see more data. But ultimately the story is we're doing really, really well, and we hope to continue that, because that's the hard part, is when you achieve your goal, you can't really, there's no time to rest. You have to continue to either move the goal, maybe increase the goal. In the case of our elementary, I'm not sure how much more they can increase the goal. And if you watch the progression, what you've seen is our elementary improve over time and get to the point where they're a high performing school in the state of Indiana, and then you start to see the junior high do the same. And so you see those kids, it starts at the lower levels, and as they continue to grow and we build and we put those building blocks together, they're also achieving better on the middle school results, and they're also doing better on the SAT high school results. And SAT now isn't like when we were students. We took the SAT if we thought we were college bound. Right. every single student takes the SAT now. The state uses that measure. And so, you're asking all of your students to take what was, to me, a really anxiety-laden test, because I was wanting to do well to get a scholarship, help pay for my school. And now you have every single kid taking that. And they all have different plans for the future, but you want them all to do their very best work. And, a lot of that comes with some school culture stuff as well. So, in addition to the idea of, hey, we're teaching them the right things, we're coming back and we're reteaching where needed, but in addition to that, we give it the proper gravity that it ought to have, the proper focus that it ought to have, which is, it is important. We want you to do well. We want you to want to do well. And so that school culture also impacts it, because, the idea of us being measured off of a kid on that day, taking that test, and some kids saying, I don't care about this. They just go through and write answers. You impact that with culture. You can't really impact that with teaching them better or having better teaching practices. You impart that with culture. And so those two things working together have, I think, been the recipe for doing very, very well. And I'm just really proud of our staff members, because they are the deliverers of the information, and how you deliver it is important, and they do an excellent job. And also really, really proud of our students for taking it seriously and putting their best foot forward and doing their very best work. So really, really proud of them, and also proud that we are serving our community in the right way and doing our very best for them, because all this builds to graduation, all this builds to college and career, and you want them to go out and do their very best, and hopefully they stay right here at home. And I've noticed in a lot of aspects and ways some things changing out of West Washington in my time there. I don't know what correlates to this, but when I started, we had a 60% free and reduced lunch rate. That free and reduced lunch rate is 10% less than it used to be. Is that a product of the school doing a good job and hopefully helping families and people go out to be able to get more gainful employment? I hope that's the case. There's no real data to link those two things, but that's another piece of data that we look at, and over time we see a trend, which is our people are doing better as families as well in our community than what they had done in the past. So it's super. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it just kind of feels you like, okay, this gives me real purpose. What I'm doing, and those hard days when it is very, very difficult, you can see a result and say, those difficult times were worth it.
Right. Well, I think testing is so hard, and I think, like, you brought up a point where, like, let's say, that one day, let's say that it's been a rough day for somebody, or a child maybe just, was late night or something and didn't get the rest, or maybe just also it can be very stressful for a child, very, scary, like, am I going to do good? Am I going to do, they always say, have a good breakfast, get good rest, well, that's easier said than done sometimes. And then they're graded on that day, on their performance, which we all know as adults, we all have our off days, And so I think that's a lot. But then you see, on the other hand, it can be a blessing to have that testing, to have some form of testing, to monitor and see where the child is at. So whether we need improvement, or like if we're hitting the marks and we're hitting what we should be. Like you're saying,
we have to be really careful as adults not to pass our stress on to our kids. Obviously it's important, but
but they're okay. It's okay if they pass their stress on to us, right?
Yeah. We carry it completely. I had six loads on mine, all the time.
Yeah, but that's
as teachers, we're stressed out about it. As educators, this is our measure. Honestly, I do not think it measures the quality of your school, but I do think it measures if you're doing things the right way, and I'm happy that we are. But sometimes as adults, we can put that on, that number means something more than what it means. And to me, that number is important. It's a piece. It is important, but not equal to, if we were only doing well on those things and we were failing our kids socially and emotionally, I would not be proud of those scores.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to do all parts, and it's part, and it is one part. So, I try to, tell our staff members, because I want to ease their stress and anxiety too. You know, you don't want to be filled with stress, or your staff to be filled with stress, that it is important and we're going to work hard, but when we get to the day, all we're going to do is our best, and we're going to see where it goes. Roll it out there and see what happens. You know, similar to like you work all this time for one game on a Friday night. You know, all you can do is go out there and put your best foot forward. You did all the work.
Right.
At this point, there's no reason to be stressed out about it. The paper gets in front of you, or you're doing it on, now it's all online, but you're sitting down at the computer. You just do your best. Mm-hmm. You know, take the next one.
Control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just think that I think the testing, you know, I think our I feel like that it's, you know, challenging to our students, you know, this day and age, and I think that it's not, I'm not saying that they're not capable of doing that. We've learned that, like, even in kindergarten used to be what we would maybe have in first grade, you know, but we've learned that it works okay, you know.
Yeah.
On up, and so I think the testing, you know, it can be good to measure and to see where we need improvement, but also I know it can be very stressful, and I know that for everyone. You know? Yeah,
it's
and it's not
as you're waiting for the results. Honestly, the test day can be a little stressful, the test weeks, but whenever you're just waiting and waiting and waiting to see what is the fruit of your labor, it's like I remember a movie, Faith Like Potatoes, but it's like, you know, you plant potatoes, they're underground, you don't know what's happening. You're just hoping that they produce, and that's kind of how you feel with that. Like, you do all that work, and then you get to that day, that moment, that week, and you get through. You got a positive feeling, but then you just got to wait and see.
That's good. Yeah. You just got to remember where you planted those potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They work well in a whiskey barrel. They really do.
That's the way to do it. Yeah. But no, I think that, you know, the testing. So, all right. So we've done the testing, right?
So like these results are based off of last year.
Okay, last year. Okay,
so you typically test in the month of April.
Okay.
They are looking at a different format of testing in the future, where it's more spread out throughout the school year, so you don't have this like 2 weeks of a testing period. You have a couple of days here and then a couple of days there. But one of the things that we've done, which has been very helpful, is, and I think every school is doing this, but you do some diagnostic testing throughout the school year, and what that does is it helps you adjust, you know, kind of like change your game plan a little bit if you need to, or identify some students that might need some extra help, and where they need it. You know, prior, I remember my first couple of years teaching, you would give that exam, you get the results back, you had a difficulty kind of pinpointing where the deficiency was. Like, you as a teacher, what did you miss? You know, what did you miss? Well, if there's a common thread, you might be able to figure that out. But what about the individual student? And what did they miss, or where are they deficient, and how does that impact other things? The diagnostic testing that we do now throughout the year helps us determine that before we get to that game situation that, you know, is worth all the marbles or whatever. You know, those diagnostic tests, they're just for us to understand what's happening. There's nothing tied to them at all.
Right.
And so it gives us the ability to say, oh, okay, they're having a fluency issue in their reading, and so we need to go back to some basics and work on X, Y, and Z. So it's a little bit more scientific than it used to be, I guess. You know, it's impressive to see the work that's being done, but it's also great to still see kids having a great time doing a lab, or seeing kids enjoying a project, seeing them enjoy each other as classmates. You know, I'll certainly go to the hills and yell about how well we're doing with the standardized testing, but for me, like I said earlier, I'm equally as proud to what our school climate looks like for our students and for our staff, and I think that's really, really important.
Definitely. Yeah. Good. All right. Anything else? Boy, time goes by so fast.
Oh, it sure does.
All right.
The only other thing I want to talk about just briefly, and we don't want to talk about it too much for a multitude of reasons, but, you know, safety is always at the forefront of our schools, and our talking about first responders, our county does an excellent job. We're getting ready to have our county-wide safety meeting, and it includes all the schools and all the first responders, EMA. We do that regularly. Within our own building, we have a safety team that meets once a month. We just conducted a full-blown safety day for each building, where we have a 2-hour delay schedule, but the kids come at normal time, and we spend the first 2 hours a day talking about nothing but safety. And then we put those things into practice. In a week or so, we're going to have a day where we practice all the things we discussed. We do like a tabletop discussion. We go to different areas in the building because that's where the kids are most anxious, and the adults as well. I know what to do when I'm in my classroom. What do I do if it's passing period? What do I do in the lunchroom? So we divide them up into groups, and we move them to station to station, and we talk about what it looks like, and we even practice it as a group. And we did that for the 7 through 12, then we did that through the K through 6. But the thing I always try to reiterate to them is, until the number is 0, that anything could potentially happen at our school, it is going to be one of our primary focuses. And the only way we get close to 0 is with the help of the students. Because we all know the things that are going on in the hallways, the things that are going on that the adults don't see, are where the details are. Yeah. And so we often go over, like, I remember being a kid, don't be a snitch, right? Don't do this, don't do that. We always tell them, like, there's no such thing as being a snitch when it comes to safety. You are a hero if you step up and do something that's going to make everyone else safer. You're also a hero to that individual that you may be reporting and saying, this person seems out of character. They've said some things that I don't think are right. Our ultimate goal is to help those kids. It doesn't always have to be discipline and punitive. Of course, there's some that are things that are very black and white. If you do X, Y is going to happen, 100%. But we just try to reiterate over and over again, if kids feel welcome and not isolated, these things don't come from students in your building. If we have an open dialogue between our students and our adults, these kind of things don't happen in your building. If every kid feels like they have trusted adults that they can speak to, and I tell them, I don't care if it's your bus driver, I don't care if it's a custodian, I don't care if it's a lunch lady, I don't care if it's a teacher. If you got everyone in this room needs to know that they can go to someone and tell them something, and that we are going to care for them and we're going to take care of it. And really, that's the best way to make your school safe, is to make everyone feel welcome and a part of what you're doing. And so we spend a lot of time talking about that in those meetings as well. So, we always focus on safety. The same day we were having one of those practices, there was a shooting that took place in Georgia, I believe. But, it's one of those things where no one expects it. You could say over and over again, well, I really feel confident that it will never happen at West Washington, but until it's a 0% chance, it's going to be a primary focus of what we do.
Yeah, I think that's just the best. I think that's what I think schools have to be that way.
Yeah.
I think it's sad, and it's something years ago we didn't think about.
Right.
But we're seeing it, and I think
it's more visible to us. Just like talking about the war footage.
Yeah.
I was in school when Columbine happened. I think sometimes we remember back and we don't remember those things. I think it's happening more often and it's more visible, but our kids need to understand that, if you take care of each other, those things are less likely to happen.
Right. Well, I think you bring up great points, and I think one of the schools, I can't remember which one though, said that they had done so many drills that they actually thought it was a drill, but it was the real, and so they were very prepared, but like there's never, like you said, there's never 100%. You always have to have situations maybe in your cafeteria or outside of the classroom. You have to account for everything. You have to think of everything. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to think of.
And what we try to empower our teachers is that they're really, in a worst case scenario, there's no right or wrong answer. Yeah. There is acting and acting quickly. Yeah. So the reason we talk about the scenarios in practice is so that you can do something and do it with confidence and do it immediately. Right. And because time is the biggest factor in keeping people safe. And so that is why, and I tell them all the time, it's like, we talk about run, hide, fight. That's a strategy for handling a situation like this. In your mind, you may only visualize yourself hiding, and that's okay. You do what you're confident doing, and you take care of the kids around you. And to date, no student or teacher has been killed behind a closed, secure door.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we spend a lot of money and time on making sure our doors work properly and are always in the locked position, because being in a secure place is the best strategy. And so we talk about multiple things, but we also talk about, as a student, if an adult is nearby, there's no time for discussion. There's no time for arguing.
Right.
You act and you follow the direction of the adult.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's something that is not easy to talk about, and we don't want to talk about it. But I think it's important for you today to tell this and to let our community and people know the procedures that you're going through. And I know other schools are doing
Oh yeah,
doing it too.
Everyone's doing it.
Everyone. And I think that's sometimes because a lot of times maybe if they don't hear what's all going on, if you don't know the
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to hear the procedures and what all is being done and how I guess heavily it is treated. I mean, how much.
There's a lot of effort put into it. I mean,
and I think that's,
our safety team is a 12-member team in our own building, and we meet monthly. We have a practice day. I send out a debrief Google form. People ask questions about scenarios. We get together as a team. We send out an FAQ, and then they can cover those things with their students and among the staff. And every year we adjust our plan because we're constantly working on it, and we're constantly looking for holes and ways to improve.
Yeah, love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Well, Keith, time's getting quick. We gotta get out of here, but keep up the great work at West Washington, and thank you for coming in and sharing all of the good news and good information and everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, and Brad, thanks for coming over from Walmart.
Absolutely.
And guys, all ready for the fall. Beautiful mums.
Yeah.
And
we started setting Christmas as well.
Yeah.
So by the end of the
I
day
did see
today,
that.
Lindsay will have all of the Christmas stuff set.
What was so much fun was there was fall, Christmas, and then summer. And it was just
We had summer clearance.
Yeah.
And then fall and Halloween and then Christmas. Yeah. So just
it's like I felt like I was just everywhere.
Choose your poison.
Yeah,
Choose your poison. Right?
Yeah, whatever you want to be. Whatever you want to be into. Yeah, for sure. But anyway, well, that's exciting for sure.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
real quick, I want to give a shout out to the Salem store. The company had a competition. It was where we sent letters out to nonprofits and other businesses in the community to do bulk buying online, similar to Sam's Club type of .com business too. The Salem store signed up the most people in the community of every store in the entire U.S. Number one in the North BU, number one in the entire company of 5,000 supercenters.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're very
Yeah.
proud of that, because what that
Absolutely.
means is we're giving our customers options, better options, save money, and do those types of things, and very proud of that. So hats off to them. So we're
You should have just walked right in this room saying that. Oh my goodness, that's huge. That's awesome.
But it's there's a lot of great folks over there that work very hard on it. So congratulations to them.
I
Very
would
proud
say.
of that. I never get tired of winning, right?
No.
We brag about our Salem Walmart when we go to things. We were at a family reunion, and someone said something about Walmart. I said,
Welcome to a brand new hour of the Rick and Bubba Show with Eddie Van Adler, Speedy, the real Greg Burgess, Bill Bubba Bussey, and Rick Burgess.
We're back. Here we are, a brand new hour. Thanks for being with us today. As you heard, the gang is all here. Wednesday Bible study back today, noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern, on the Rick and Bubba YouTube channel. Also, yesterday we announced 3 cities next year, Man Church conferences in Atlanta, Birmingham, Panama City. Those tickets all went on sale yesterday. If you want to go there to the link at themanchurch.com, you can see all the venues. You can see the speaking lineup at each one of those. All the stuff you need is there, and those tickets are rolling now. You can get early access tickets, meaning you'll be let in before the others. Everything else is general admission, all 3 locations. So as we start this hour, a lot of you, we did the flashback to 9/11 23 years ago. So you start asking questions about the video and the audio. A lot of you are asking on the text option, what is the song Breathe at the end? Who is this person? Where can we find it? Speedy found it. It's Catherine Scott, and it's the version of her doing the song live from London. So those of you that are trying to find that, there's that information. And then going to the break, we were asked a question about end times and, going back to 9/11 and, what role do you think nuclear weapons play in all this? We know that God has not been silent, that the earth will be refined by fire. As he pointed out correctly, the promise is not to flood it again. And he asked, do we think these weapons, might be Yeah, and you were talking about how much testing.
Oh yeah, the United States alone has tested over 1,000 nuclear warheads above ground, over 100 in the continental United States. So, if you were just having a general conversation with somebody and said, if we were hit by 100 atomic bombs, what would it look like? And they would think probably utter destruction.
Right.
But we have done that in the testing. Now, of course, if it hits a city, it's a much different arrangement.
Yeah.
But I do think that a bigger explosion, a more damaging explosion, would easily be caused by a meteor or an asteroid hitting the Earth, if you're going to look at it just from a science standpoint.
Yeah.
And, we think that's what probably wiped the dinosaurs out or helped to wipe them out a long time ago. So I think, and even Revelation speaks of a mountain that's going to fall into the sea called Wormwood.
Yeah.
And so I think, you have to look more in that area, although the nuclear part of it is obviously could be part of it too.
Well, when you look at what, and Bubba's right, you can go to the Revelation and you're dealing with the tribulation and all those things, and one of the things he mentions is true, but and all that's there. God is not as silent sometimes, speaking from my experience. At one time I thought there was and there are a lot of things that God has, about God we'll never know till we, as Paul talks about, we see dimly, but one day we'll see him as he is when we're done with this body and this sin nature and we're in our glorified state. However, I know for me, and I'll just speak about me, there were a lot of things that God is not silent on. I just thought he was because I'd never read the Bible. I didn't know the Bible. So here's another one. It's the second epistle of Peter. And he begins to talk about the day of the Lord in chapter 3. And we did this study in the Wednesday Bible study a while back, so that archive is out there. But for his question, and I think what Bubba's suggesting, that it's going to be something bigger, you'll see that Peter seems to think that. Now, understand, Peter, even though he has the Holy Spirit now after Pentecost, which has been a game changer for him, his background is fisherman. Up to this point. Okay, so this shows you the power of the Holy Spirit and God revealing things to him. So he begins to take on what you still see today. Where's Jesus? I thought y'all said he was coming back.
Right.
And everybody's starting to mock the followers of Jesus. Y'all said he was coming back. He hasn't come back. Why hasn't he come back? And so Peter is taking that on, and he's trying to explain that he says, now, this is the second letter that he'd written. He said, I know that a lot of you remember the predictions of the holy prophets and commandment of the Lord and our Savior through your apostles, knowing first of all that scoffers will come in the last day, scoffing, following their own sinful desires. They'll say, where is the promise of his coming? For ever since the fathers fell asleep, all things are continuing as they were from the beginning of creation, meaning life's just carrying on. Y'all don't know what's going on. And then Peter says, but they deliberately overlooked this fact, that the heavens existed long ago, and the earth was formed out of water and through water by the word of God, and that by means of